傷つけないなんてことはできないんだ。人間存在するだけで無自覚に誰かを傷つけるものさ。生きていても死んでいてもずっと傷つける。関われば傷つけるし、関わらないようにしてもそのことが傷つけるかもしれない。
悪くはないんです。人も羨むような人生の成功を手に入れた。でもなんか物足りない。こんなものだったのかと。あるいはもっと有意義な人生があったかもしれない。もっとバラ色でもっと光り輝いていて、一点の曇りもない学生生活を思う様満喫していたかも。
どうしたんだね。寝ぼけているのか。
あ
The landing wheels aren't retracting!
Yeah, and the number 2 nozzle won't work either.
What? Are you for real? We can't live
Oh, well.
without them. I knew I should
Whatever
have come here.
happens,
I'm only 18.
happens.
I don't want to die yet. I've never even been with a woman. Somebody
So you feel like you care too much, and I do too. As exaggerating as it sounds, it is as if it was a matter of life or death. Be it in desperately adapting your persona to the preferences of others, just so you could once again escape the hammer of societal judgment, or dreading over the unfathomable consequences of being unaccepted. It is then you realize you have so much at stake, so much to lose. You don't want to re-experience that one time where you've been smited for not embodying the alleged expectations and standards of others. As such, the solution becomes clear. You just have to be perfect and satisfy those expectations, no matter what it takes. Even if it means sabotaging your own well-being in the process. At least then, you will have finally achieved your mission of being accepted. But at what cost? For a fleeting sensation of validity. If you are a well-informed individual, you're most likely already familiar with people pleasers. Perhaps you're aware of the idea that you are one yourself. It is a subject capable of being applied across multiple environments and contexts, whether in school, your workplace, home, anywhere. And it is because you care so much. You care about the dread of rejection. You care about what people might think if you act or express yourself in a particular way. And most significantly, you care about how your identity is perceived. I've noticed that the older I've grown with each passing year, the higher the stakes have become in my life. Responsibilities begin to introduce themselves. Problems are only answered with even more. Expectations from others or yourself begin to raise. And you find yourself constantly adapting to unfamiliar environments, where it seems like you can't afford to mess up and make mistakes. As the room for failure has shortened, life has become one thing after another. You then become so obsessed with the external, to the point where you don't even take the time to look at yourself and cognitively reassess. When you care so deeply about the lives of others, the past and future become dictators of your present thoughts. Negative experiences become reference points for your decisions, actions, and mentalities. And while this can move in various ways, the reality is, interpreting such experiences in a self-destructive manner can overpower your mind with unhealthy assumptions and what-ifs. Insecurities form, self-doubt becomes an everyday occurrence, and you find yourself overwhelmed by comparison. It's always been and always will be a matter of attachment and detachment. Perhaps you want to impress the girl or guy of your dreams. Perhaps you simply desire to be acknowledged by people. And perhaps you attach yourself to such ideas, like that of a prisoner chained to a cell wall. Thus, you are a prisoner to the external. Is this really a plausible way to live? Have you ever felt so utterly out of place in social scenarios? Like, it always seems as if you're the odd one out in every conversation. and you get the feeling your presence is lacking, unheard, or even unnecessary. You then compare yourself to your peer across the restaurant table, who is the exact opposite, an individual whose vibe is simply unparalleled. Their presence always attracts others, and you perceive them to be a much more interesting person than you could ever be, which potentially makes you question, what the hell is wrong with me? How can I not be boring? What if people notice that I'm weird and not interesting? I need to fit in, but I need to act like I'm not trying too hard. This is one of numerous examples in which comparison reinforces how and why you care so much. It is as if you have an obligation to be entertaining, to be interesting to the common eye, just so people won't get the idea that something is wrong with you, or that you don't fit in. You are focused on possibilities, assumptions, and perceptions. It is a classic youthful case of conformity. Being characterized by such elements is what you perceive to be a desirable trait. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Life is ruthless. The older you grow, the more you learn of the bleak realities that seem impossible to live with or escape from. At a specific point through it all, it begins to make you nostalgically miss certain periods of the past where you weren't an overthinker, but instead the incarnation of innocence. The good old days where you simply didn't care. But look what has become of you now. You now obsess over the future, your flaws and imperfections, the structure of your text messages, the toxic cesspool we call modern dating, and whether or not you are good enough for the world. And it isn't wrong to think this way. It is more a matter of considering the aspects of life we care about, and the unhealthy extremes of our care for such things. This is where detachment introduces itself. What are the things you attach yourself to? Is it the opinions and judgments of others? Or is it the parts of yourself you deem irredeemable and hopeless? The issue is, your happiness is dependent on whether or not you're accepted by the majority. It depends on what you've defined as success, and you allow such emotions to be defined by external influence. And once you've tasted the pain of struggle and failure, no matter how small or large, it will be as if your inner world is crumbling apart. Just by existing, you are already going to disappoint people and even yourself at times in myriad ways. No matter how simple it may seem, judgment will always remain inevitable. You will continue to be criticized for who you are, even if you don't know who you are yet. Just as how I will always remain susceptible to criticism for making this current project. It is simply impossible to please everyone and satisfy every expectation that is placed on you, as you're inherently flawed by nature, as is every being roaming the planet. Every life comes with highs and lows, satisfactions and disappointments. And once you realize that finding happiness was never about outside factors, but in embracing both the joys and difficulties that your life has to offer with your head held high, you will come to understand the value of appreciation and simplicity. It was never about outside validation, rather coming to terms with yourself internally. And I don't have the right to define what the latter means, as only you would know the answer. It could mean forgiving yourself and others, regardless of whatever context the situation may take, or attempting to gain certain life perspectives in which you otherwise weren't willing to consider in the past. Although, this doesn't exactly mean resigning to your circumstances or negative internal thoughts, rather practicing self-acceptance, where you understand what you can control and cannot. And as humans, we will always have the capability to control our internal state of mind. You're probably already familiar with the idea that you cannot control the external, especially if you religiously consume motivational media like I do. Yet, it is a fleeting reminder that we may find ourselves forgetting during the moments we need it most. Moments where the odds are stacked against you. Moments where you feel like a foreigner to life itself. And the times where insecurity begins to consume you. So, will you succumb to the weight of attachment? Or will you embrace your circumstances for what they actually are, no matter how demoralizing they may be? Accepting that it is okay to be boring, it is okay to fall short, it is okay to not be good enough, and it is okay to not be okay. You may not be able to control the external, although you will always have the ability to control how you respond to even the greatest obstacles standing before you. The choice is yours. Hey, I couldn't just end the video without expressing my wholehearted gratitude for the recent support to my channel in such a short amount of time. Never would I have expected this development, and as a self-sabotaging person, I honestly still question if I truly deserve the success. But despite it all, I know for sure that I'm fortunate, appreciative, and thankful. So genuinely, thank you. Well, that's about it for me. Stay healthy.